Colt, thanks for being on our show today.
Good morning.
Good morning. You're one of our mentors in business. You've done so many cool things, and every single time I talk to you, I'm just like, I have to sit down with this guy for more than 15 minutes. So thank you for being here. I know you have a super busy schedule.
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So let's start with this. How did you get into business in the first place?
I don't like being told what to do, right? So getting a job was never going to be an option for me. Even as a very young person, school, anything like that, a teacher would come, they'd tell you what to do and be like, I don't really like being told what to do. So taking orders from a boss, that was never in the cards for me. It wasn't in the cards for me from a small person, listening to my parents, any of it. Don't tell me what to do. We can ask, we can talk through it, we can negotiate, but dictatorship, that's not going to work for me. That was a big part of it. So I knew from very early age that it was not going to be possible for me to work for somebody else because they were going to tell me what to do. And odds are they were going to be an idiot and I wasn't going to be able to tolerate that.
That's fair enough.
So just for some context, how many businesses do you own?
The answer to that is a lot, more than one, more than one. To be honest with you, I never really counted.
Okay.
I don't know the answer. I mean, some businesses have holding companies and then divisions and breakouts. If I had to guess, it's from 30, 35, maybe, I don't know.
That's crazy.
Depends. I mean, it's like certain real estate's broken up. There's a real estate company over here that owns this, and this, and then there's another one that does that, and then some of them get consolidated and moved. So I really don't know the answer.
Gotcha.
It's more than one.
So I remember you talking to me about this. You said you got started with business in college, right? Can you kind of tell that story of how that first business kind of came about?
So, couple things. I had a wonderful childhood. I had my wonderful parents. They're my neighbors now. They're amazing people. They both worked. My dad was an electrician. My mom was a nurse, and I watched them absolutely kill themselves for a job for somebody else, right? My mom would get up in the middle of the night and take calls. She'd drive to town, and we lived in the country. So her driving to town is a 30-minute commute to Penrose Community Hospital down in Colorado Springs. She'd get up in the middle of a snowstorm and drive out because the phone rang at 1 o'clock in the morning, right? My father would get up every morning at 4:45. He'd walk out of the door at 5:45. He'd drive an hour to work to be there at 6:45, and then he'd get off at 3:30. He's a union electrician. He'd come home and then he'd go right back to doing work at the house and chores because my parents did this. They did this thing where they didn't do debt. My mom and dad never had a mortgage. They built their house paycheck to paycheck over 30 years, right? Wow. They did things that we look at it now. I look at it now and I go, how in the hell did you do something like that? What do you mean you moved into a house? You built a house. They got married and they sat down, they looked at each other, and my dad told my mom, he says, we're going to sell this little cabin that he bought with his Vietnam check. He got drafted in Vietnam. He got home, he bought this little cabin. My mom and him got married, and he told my mom, we're going to build this house, but when the money runs out, wherever that is, we're moving in, right? And he built it with $20,000. Right. So, I mean, of course, it was the 70s, but they start this process and they push it, and then they stuck to it. Right. Never had credit card debt, never had a car loan, never had a mortgage, never had any of those things. And as a kid, I watched my parents. My dad fixed something all the time. There's the part of being the family that doesn't buy new stuff is everything's old, everything breaks all the time. So you have to be resourceful enough that if you bought it and you want to use it again, you have to fix it. So he'd come home from work and he'd just start fixing stuff. And he'd work till 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. We'd have a meal, everybody'd go to bed, rinse and repeat for 40 years, right? So I watched him work hard, and we never were hungry. We were never in these things, but we'd go, you look at your friends and you look at your people around you and they have all this amazing stuff. I don't have any of that stuff. Right? I never had a video game. We had a computer. It was the biggest piece of crap you could imagine, right? We had dial-up internet. That was the thing. We never had cable TV. So we had a TV. It didn't have a remote control. If you wanted to change a channel, you got up and clicked the button, right? So growing up that way and watching my parents, it said to me, if I ever want to break this cycle and get out of this, I have to do something for myself, right? I have had, and I've always been infatuated with wealthy people who did it. I love, it's like my favorite thing to do. And I do it still to this day. I sit down to talk with people who made it, and I just do this. I say, hey, let me just ask you some questions, and just ask a few leading questions and let them talk and give you the answer to how they did it. I've got a couple great examples of that kicked me off and got me started. But the first one, the guy that really set me off on the path, his name was Dean. He's still a dear friend of mine now. He owned a landscaping company here in Colorado Springs, and he'd work 6-7 months a year, and he'd take the winter off. And they had all the coolest stuff. They had all the cool toys. He had the hot rods and the sports cars and his kids. My little sister and his youngest daughter showed horses together, so that's how we got to meet. Right? I met him when I was like 10 years old, and he has a son that's my age who's still one of my best friends in the world and the best man at my wedding. And I got to watch this guy do this thing as a child. So I said I got jobs in high school, working at the Blockbuster, working at the Safeway, bagging groceries, stuff like that, just because that's what you do. But after I graduated from high school, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do what Dean did. I want to work 6-7 months a year. I want to make all that money, and I want to duck out and do whatever it looks like. So I started. I actually sat down with him. I said, I want to do this. How do you do this? And he smiled at me. He said, I'll help you. I'll set you up. So he helped me out. He set me up. I went and bought a lawnmower at a garage sale. And I had an old piece of crap pickup that I had gotten from my mom and dad when I was young. And that's what we did. So I did that. And he helped me and got me off the line. And so one day I'm sitting on a lawnmower. I'm bouncing through a field. It's like 112 degrees. It's hot as hell. I'm sweating. I'm covered in dust and bullshit. And Can I say it? Okay. Okay. I'm covered in dust and bullshit. And it was miserable. It was hot. I reached down, I turned the lawnmower off. I said, are you smarter than this or what? Yeah, I'm smarter than this. All right, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to do something different. Okay. So, it was Dustin, Dean's son, who was getting married. And I'd been working landscaping. And so we go to his wedding. I'm in his wedding. I'm his best man at his wedding. And he's got an aunt. His grandmother's sister, okay, is married to this guy named John. Right? And I've heard all about John. John is filthy rich, right? He's bouncing around on the Concorde, going back and forth to everywhere. He's driving a Bentley. He's got like 7 houses, a yacht. I mean, this guy's loaded, right? And so I have to meet him. So he can't go to the weddings up in the mountains. He can't go. So I come back and I meet him, and I just sit down and interview him just like this. I said, sir, I got to do something. I'm smarter than this. And he smiled at me. He said, you probably are. So he starts telling me this story. This is hilarious. So he starts telling me this story, and he goes back. He says, I went to this high school in Chicago, right? And he said, I had this basketball coach who was just an old, just mean, hard basketball coach. He used to throw the ball at my head, and he never let me slack or skate or anything. And I said, man, that's an interesting basketball coach. No. And he was like, yeah. He says, I said, what was his name? Why do you ask an 80-year-old man what his middle school basketball coach's name was? He says, oh, his name was John Jordan. I said, oh, that's wild. You know, I'm marrying his granddaughter in a couple of years. Yeah. So that's a whole weird all tie-on. So this guy I'm interviewing, this ultra wealthy guy, is telling me he's wealthy because of a basketball coach, and I'm marrying his granddaughter in a couple of years. Just complete random happenstance. It was pretty neat. So I meet this guy, and he made a bunch of money in pharmaceuticals. I said, what would you do differently? And he said, I would find a business where I didn't have to have inventory, I didn't have to have employees, and I could leverage technology. Good luck. Okay. Thanks for the help. Yeah. Right? So I go back to my little drawing board, and I'm thinking through it, and I'm like, man, the internet is interesting right now. Right? This was 2006, 2007. So the internet's starting out, everybody's Facebook's there. But so I think I'm going to sell something on the internet. All right. So that'll take me back to another story. Okay. So here's how I get into that mode. So I walk into my high school. I went to Lewis Palmer. I walk into my high school on my first day of my senior year, and everybody's kind of doing their thing. We're all excited. And off in the corner is this massive black dude, right? This is Lewis Palmer, right? In the early 2000s. This isn't a thing. This isn't a thing, right? This is not a thing. So, and nobody is talking to him. He is like 6'7". He weighs 380 pounds, 350. He's wearing a Raiders jersey. He's got a Raiders hat on. He's got his big ass headphones on. He's listening to rap music in the corner. His teeth are all jacked up. He's got braces and he's terrifying. Everybody's terrified of this dude, right? And I'm looking at him. I'm like, this is first morning. I'm like, what's wrong? I'm going to say hi. So I walk over and introduce myself. Hey man, I'm Colt. I stick my hand out and woof, and he pulls me all into this. I'm like, whoa, okay, we're here for this. All right, we're friends. His name is Devin. I'm like, Devin, and tell me a story, man. You just moved here? He says, yeah, I just moved here from San Francisco. My family just moved here. I play on the basketball team. Like, great, man. I'd love to meet your family. So that day, we're at school and we're standing in front, and his dad walks in. His dad is a 6'5" white dude. Okay, I know that. I know that's not real. So then his brother walks up. His brother is a 6'1" white dude. And his sister walks up. She's a 5'10" white girl. And I'm like, okay, obviously you're adopted, right? He says, yeah, kind of. Okay, so I introduced myself to his dad, and they had just moved in like the day before. And his dad puts his hand on his son's shoulder, and Devin's shoulder. He says, hey, let's go to the house. We got to unload these moving trucks. And I was like, hey, you guys need some help. I'll come over and help out. And he looked at me. He was like, what do you mean you come help out? I said, well, do you need help carrying boxes? He was like, yeah. I was like, okay, I'll come help carry boxes. So I went over and helped carrying boxes. And I meet this guy. His name is Kimbo, right? And Kimbo's going to be the most influential character in my entire life, the most influential person you could have imagined. And I cannot say enough great things about him. And I don't exist in any shape, facet, any of this without Kimbo in my life. So it's all fortuitous, right? The whole story. So I become great friends with this guy and with Devin, and we lived together in college. We played college basketball. We were, Robin Big before Robin Big was a thing. You know what that is, right? Yeah. Okay. So we were a blast. And so I'm sitting with Kimbo at this house, his monument, and I'm telling him like, I'm going to do something. I'm going to get in the internet. And he said, that's very funny. He said, so I learned a lot about Kimbo when we're young, right? He retired at 40 years old. Him and his wife started an advertising agency in their garage in San Francisco in 1989. They borrowed money from her grandmother, and they put all their savings in it, and they just started a company. Well, 10 years later, it was the biggest advertising agency on the East Bay. They launched Salesforce.com. Reebok was a client, Oracle, Wells Fargo, Jelly Belly. I mean, this guy, Stagecoach Funds, Charles Schwab, he launched the most expensive toothbrush in the history of the world with Oral-B. Like, this is the guy I'm sitting in his backyard talking who's retired at 40, right? And he's wearing these stupid ass velour Snoop Dogg sweatsuits, right? He built this massive mansion in the monument, and he's driving this beautiful Mercedes. He's got all these cool cars, and he does nothing all day long. And I'm looking at this guy, I'm like, this is it, right? So I'm interviewing this guy. So we had become very close, and he taught me some wonderful lessons before we had done any of this. And so I'm sitting with him, and I'm like, I'm going to sell something on the internet. And he like cocks his head off to the side. It's my junior year of college. Are you sure? I said, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm done with this landscaping thing. I'd landscaped his yard. I'd done great stuff for him. And he said, all right, well, I just happened to put a bunch of money with a company selling auto insurance on the internet. He said, so I'm going to help you. We're going to stand up your first company and your first like internet big boy company. I'm going to help you stand it up, and I got you a job. I got you a client. It's great. So I'm so naive, and I get this job, and I'm selling car insurance on the internet, Google ads and Yahoo at the time, and right. And the company was doing okay, and I went off and learned everything I needed to learn. I did these conferences and these seminars and all this stuff to learn it. And I come back from these, and now I know what I'm doing, and I went to work. Well, I grew the shit out of that company, like a lot. I mean, this is 2007, 8, 9 in there. I worked for him for like 2 or 3 years. And at one point we were throwing like $500,000 a month in free cash flow after all the bills were paid, after the ridiculous salaries were paid. I mean, I was 23 years old making $200,000 a year. Like, and I lived like it too, right? I'd bought the expensive BMW. Me and the dog had this big, beautiful house in Briargate that we were renting. I was so pumped. Kate was off at school, so I'm sending Kate money to enjoy college and buying all sorts of stupid crap, eating out every meal. I didn't own a washer and dryer. So I just send all my clothes to the dry cleaner down the street and get the bill back, right? It was a good time, and I was selling cars or selling auto insurance. And what happened was I started getting more. These guys, the two guys who owned the company, and Kimbo was an investor in it. These two guys who owned the company were doing weird stuff, right? They were shopping for yachts and buying luxury sports cars and other homes and doing stuff. And so they had kind of started pulling back. And as they were pulling back, I was stepping into the business, and I started understanding what they were doing, right? Well, what I discovered is they were doing some things they shouldn't have been doing, right? And it never sat well with me ever. So it is a long roundabout way to tell you how they were doing it, but they were not being honorable people. They were breaking contracts. They were making a lot of money breaking the contracts, but it was wrong. So I went to him. I read my spreadsheet math. I went to him and I said, "Here's the deal. I know what you're doing. Here's how we do it honorably. Here's how we do this correctly. Here's how we honor the contracts that you signed. Here's how we stay in business." No, we're not changing that. By the way, the margin goes down by half. So instead of making $500,000 a month, you can make 200, 250. Sorry, it's still a shitload of money. And they were like, "No, absolutely not. Go back to your office. That's not going to work." So I went to Kimbo, had come into my office one day. He put his hand on my shoulder. He said, "Man, I'm so proud of you. You're doing so great, da, da, da." And I looked at him and I was like, "I got to tell you something, dude." And so I took him to breakfast and we sat down and I explained the whole thing. I was like, here's what the problem is. Here's how it fixes. And he says, "Yeah, that's not going to work for me. I've got money in this company." Right. And he owned just above the threshold for liability. So, we have a meeting, the four of us, Kim, me, and the two partners. It did not go well. It didn't go well at all. The CEO stood up in this. I had my office. My first office was a big corner office on the top floor of a building down on Pikes Peak in Tejon. I mean, I was living large, right? It was living large. And the CEO takes his golf club and he swings it and he puts a hole in the side of his desk. I mean, he freaked out. It was a full freak out, right? And I got fired that day. I lost my only client. Well, it happened to be 6 weeks before my wedding to Kate. So, like, wow, this is new. I go from making $200,000 a year, spending all of it, to making nothing instantly. And of course, I never saved a dime. It was so stupid. And so 6 weeks before the wedding. So Kate and I, we sit down, and then a couple weeks before the wedding, 2 weeks before the wedding, we're sitting in this fancy brand new BMW I can't afford, having an ice cream cone from Dairy Queen that I can't afford also. And I looked at her, I looked at the seat and I said, "Babe, I don't think you should get married. I don't think we should get married. You shouldn't marry me." She was like, "What?" And I was like, I have no job. I have no prospects for a job. I can't support you. I have no idea what I'm going to do. Right? She turned, she looked at me and she said, "Fuck you. We're getting married. You'll figure it out." I was like rattled. Like, this is not this isn't the girl. That's pretty forceful. All right, I guess I'll give it a shot. So we got married, and Kimbo came to our wedding, and you know how they do that little dollar dance? Listen, I put our $3,000 honeymoon on a credit card that I could not. I had like $3,008 worth of room on this credit card to buy this trip. So we went to Hawaii and we did the dollar dance, the dance, you know, where you ever been to a wedding where they dance with the bride and they give you $20 or whatever. Well, Kimbo led the dollar dance, and we ended up with like $3,500 in cash after this thing. I was like, "Whoa, dude." He started off, he's like, "I'll give you $1,000 to dance with the bride." I'm like, "Wow, that's my guy right there." So we went on our honeymoon and we had a great time. We couldn't afford to eat where we were, right? It was Hawaii. It was too expensive. So we come home, we're sitting in his living room, right? And we had, by the time I'd got fired, by the time the end of this thing, we had lawyered up. Kim and I had lawyered up. Those guys had promised me a piece of the business, and I had it in an email, thankfully. And our lawyer negotiated with his. Kimbo got his money back. I got paid a little bit. And so I'm sitting in his living room. I'm like, "Man, I have no idea what I'm going to do." And he said, "I tell you what, I just seem to have gotten this money that I wasn't supposed to get. I'll give you $50,000. And I was like, "Oh boy, 50 runs to me." I was like, "That's a lot of money. Are you sure?" He said, "Yeah, I'm gonna give you $50,000. He said, "We're gonna be equal partners." Can you do it with honor and integrity and do it the right way? I said, yeah, I think I can. He said, well, here's the problem. You can't do it in insurance because we just signed a document that says we wouldn't compete with insurance. That's how we got the check. So he said, you find something else, go to work. So I got a new business partner. I got a $50,000 check in my pocket, and I come back to him about a week later, and I said, here's the deal. We're going to sell cars on the internet. We're going to sell car loans. And he said, car loans? But mind you, this is in the teeth of the '08 recession, right? This is 2009, 2010. The world is a disaster, and I'm 24 years old. I'm a stupid ass kid who's never had any like real influence on the economy. I had no idea that it was going to be that I was so wrong and so right at the same time. Kimbo knew, but he was just 50 grand to him wasn't a whole lot of money. 50 grand to me was everything. So he funded the deal. So we started selling cars on the internet. So I started in 2010. I don't remember the month, selling cars. And I remember watching, we built the websites, we built all the stuff. I set the partnerships up. I did all the stuff. We had this little terrible, tiny little office. I mean, this office was tiny. My desk fit in it, and he had a lazy boy recliner that he sat in, and he sat right next to me, and that's how we started the business. So it took 6 months. I'll never forget it. So we lost money, and then I started to climb up and get break even. And he took me on a fishing trip. Me, his youngest son, and Kimbo, we went to Montana and went fishing. All right. We were in the middle of an Indian reservation. We had no internet at the place we were staying. So we had to drive like 5-10 miles down the road to go to a coffee shop to check the internet. So the business was rolling. So we're on our fishing trips, the 1st of June, 2011. And I checked the business. I checked the numbers. That's not right. So I redid it. He did it again. I said, man, we made a lot of money today. You could check it every day. And I did it again. And I said, Kimbo, dude, we made like $7,000 today. He's like, no. I mean, the most we'd ever made like 400 or 500, right? And he was like, nah, check it again. And so I checked it again. I was like, dude, it's right. So we were excited. Wow, something happened. We don't know what happened. I go fishing the next day, and we come back, and I do the same thing. And we'd made money again. We made like $5,500, $6,000 that day fishing. We were gone. We were fishing all day. The internet was just working. And I was like, dude, it's still right. Like, it's still right. So that was the turning point in the business, in the business hockey. So I turned that $50,000 into $6 million a year.
So there's a big jump right there.
Yeah. It was
that like?
it was an eye-opening moment. Like I took like this, oh my God, I'm not an idiot, right? We did it. And then this is where I'm a big mentor guy. I love mentors. I believe in them more than anything, right? People if you've made a mistake and you'll teach me about your mistake, I don't need to learn it again. I'll just listen, right? I don't need to do this twice. And the business made money. Boy, did it make money. And we expanded, and we hired people, and we changed the office, and all of this with my mentor right next to me helping with it. And we sat down, and he said, you have a choice now. Okay, what's the choice? He says, you can do what you did previously, which is take all this money you're making and just completely blow it. Or you can listen to a man who's done this before and maybe change the course of your life. I said, okay, I'll listen. It's not buying luxury cars. It's not buying boats. It's not buying vacation homes. It's not getting debt. It's paying off Kate's student loan, right? It's paying off all the credit cards that you've racked up over the years, paying all that crap off, get there. And then the hard part happens. Then you have to watch the money accumulate, and then you have to decide where you're going to spend it to get out of this, right? So the mistake I made with the insurance guys was they were the only client. So when they went out of business, I was screwed, right? I was done. Well, he said, we're not going to do that again. Let's expand. Let's grow. Let's get wide, and let's try these things. So we sold we had the auto finance business, and we started an employee rewards company, and we did all sorts of stuff, mortgages and solar panels and bed sheets. We did all these things that worked and were great. And instead of taking the money and pissing it away on things that you shouldn't have done, that shouldn't have bought, fancy cars and all the other stuff, I drove an old car. I drove this, and then just hung out. And we lived cheap, and we lived free, and we saved the money to buy the houses and all these things. And that was the the way it worked. But he stood there and looked at me and said, yes, you can afford to buy a Rolex. Do you need a Rolex? No. He says, if you owe student loans and credit cards, you can't afford a Rolex. Okay, all right, I'll listen to the old man. The old man got it together. So that's how that kind of progressed and started. And then we started, okay, so the advertising business is what really opened my eyes to the world in a big way. So in 2012 or 13, a publicly traded company out of California came to buy the automotive financing business, right? And at the time, I wasn't working very hard. I was goofing off a lot because the internet just worked. We weren't working very hard, but we were still kind of tinkering with the other things. And they offered us $1 million in cash and $6 million in stock. Okay, so they offered $7 million roughly for the business, which was pretty great. The business was basically 1 times revenue, right? It was a good deal. I got a little bit of money. I got a lot of stock, but it was betting on a company that had a new CEO. The company had history. They'd been through some stuff, and it was basically taking what I knew was a sure thing and betting on this other guy, right? I made a mistake. I said no, right? Should have said yes, but talking about what the stock price did after that, the 2-3 years after that it's terrifying. It's detrimental. I should have sold it, and I wouldn't be sitting here, but we didn't. So we had this. Do you remember? You guys are old enough to remember Mr. Biggs?
Yeah.
Remember Mr. Biggs?
Yes.
So Kimbo was Mr. Biggs.
Really?
Yeah. You remember Mr. Biggs?
No.
Indoor Family Fun Center. It had a bowling alley, laser tag.
Yeah.
So Kimbo was Mr. Biggs. Huh. Yeah. That's great.
Sorry, I'm just like processing what you just said. That's insane.
Yeah. So he had partners, and we were approached. We were helping Mr. Biggs kind of do little advertising stuff because we had design. I had a design and videography department and tech dudes and all this stuff. So we had all these people in the office, and Kim was like, yeah, we're going to help with that. I said, okay, great. So we have this guy start a haunted house. He approaches us to start a haunted house. He said, right, this is how this happened. This doesn't make any sense. So we have this family fun center, and this guy comes in the office. And he says, hey, I want to put a haunted house out there. I'm like, great, go for it. So he shows us his plan, and he's like, I'll pay you $5 for every ticket we sell. Okay, great. Doesn't cost us anything. Let's do it. So we signed the deal, and then he says, great. How are you going to help me get people in the door? And I'm in the meeting. I'm looking. I'm like, what do you mean? You're the haunted house guy. We just gave you the facility and signed the deal. That's all we did. He was like, no, I need advertising help. And I said out loud in the meeting, I don't know shit about advertising. And Kimbo turned and looked at me, and he's this big cherubic man. He's a wonderful human. He turns and looked at me. He's like, what are you talking about? We know everything there is to know about advertising. He said, that's how I got here. I was like, well, we don't have an advertising agency. And he stood up from the chair and he put his arm around it. He said, look around. Right, got all these people around. He says, that's a graphic department. That's a videography department. That's a tech department. That's a creative department. That's a content department. There's the media department. Tell me we don't have an advertising agency. I was like, okay, we have an advertising agency. All right, now let's roll into this. So we start doing that, and it worked, and we killed it. And my employees loved it, right? They can only write about the same bad credit auto loan so many times before they just get bored. And it like gave life, right? So we did this. Well, it worked. And then we did another one. We had one of the other partners of Mr. Biggs had a company that owned a bunch of McDonald's. He owned all like 17 McDonald's around town. Steve Biggery, I don't know if you know the name. Super nice, wonderful guy. Another great mentor. Yeah. He started a company where he was doing restaurant ordering over the phone, taking to-go orders over the phone for big franchises like Chipotle, P.F. Chang's, Papa John's, all that. You call in, you're not talking to somebody in the restaurant. You're talking to somebody in a call center. Well, that call center was in our office, in our building. And so Steve wanted help growing his business, so he hired us. And then my neighbor, roundabout way, comes to me and he says, hey, you do advertising, right? I was like, yeah. He says, we're going to do the shooting range. I was like, sounds great. He says, I need you to do the advertising. Yeah, all right, yeah. So we set up a meeting. We have a meeting with the guy's partners, and Magnum Shooting Center, it originally started as a client. And then the opportunity came, and we were sitting with one of our partners. He's like, you guys want to be a part of this thing? You want to put some money in this deal and do it? And Kim and I looked at each other like, yep, let's do that. So that's how Magnum came along, right? Out of the advertising agency. And then the client base just started growing. You know, we had clients like Challenger Homes, Advantage Homes, and the YMCA and banks. And we got clients just all over the place. That company that tried to buy us, the publicly traded company out of California, after I said no twice, made a mistake twice, he called and he was like, well, if you're not going to sell me the company, why don't you at least be the advertising agency and rebrand the company and run the whole thing? I became close with the CEO. And so we just started adding a portfolio of clients, and it just grew into this thing that it is today with, 30, 35 employees and clients and stuff all over the country, everywhere. It's a lot of fun. That's the story of how we got here, but it's really Kimbo's fault.
It's a good story.
Fault is an interesting choice of words.
So, good.
No, I was going to ask, like, I know you mentioned that you were just so infatuated by, like, wealthy people, but, like, what was the true motivator for you to want to get into, like, owning your own stuff? I know you said you didn't want to listen to somebody else, but, like, was it the money? Was it the freedom? Was it, like, being retired at 40? Is that something that you wanted? What was the motivator?
I thought so. Right. And as you get older, I think it changes. When you're young and have come from nothing, it's all about the money, right? I just want the stuff. I want to walk into a dealership and buy whatever I want. If I want an ATV, I buy the ATV, right? For me, it was power sports and stuff as a kid. I always wanted those things. And the only way to get it, I figured it out early on, was you're going to have to work your ass off to go get it. So at first it was that. And then it became freedom. And then as the business grew, the freedom went away, right? So... And it didn't necessarily go away, but your commitment to the outcome dictated what was going to happen, right? Yes. Could I take the next week off and not tell a soul? Absolutely. Would I? Absolutely not. Right? There's too many responsibilities. One of my core tenets is like, I never wanted to be the guy who got rich or wealthy off of taking advantage of somebody else, right? So in every company I own or have influence in, we pay our people very well, right? I think Amazon's a great business, but the fact that, they have 300,000 employees and 150,000 of them are on food stamps, that doesn't work for me, right? I don't like that. I want the people that I sit down at the table with to be giving their all and their everything they have. And if they're hungry or worried about their car payment or their car repair or whatever it is, that doesn't do me any good. So I would much prefer to overpay people. That's hampered me in a lot of ways, right? I could tell you 100%. That has hurt me by giving more giving more to people has absolutely cost us money, cost us opportunities, cost us things. But in the end, I have to be able to look myself in the mirror, right? And I don't want I could ask any one of my employees and they would say, I think for a majority of them would say that we're incredibly generous and thoughtful and considerate and caring, because in the end, they're people first, right? They're employees second. And you have one of the reasons that one of the drivers for me that I sat down and I counted it up, the amount of lives that depend on me making the right decision on a daily basis is pretty significant. It's thousands. Right? If I've got an employee who's got, 4 kids and a spouse, right? That's 6. They're counting on me not to screw something up, right? And their livelihood is dependent on the decisions that we make as an ownership group or a team. And if we make the bad decision, or if I made a selfish decision, or if I made a decision that impacted them in a negative way, right? I have to own that. That's my responsibility.
Seems like a bunch of pressure, and
It's a ton. Oh,
I want to ask about that because I'm sure. Well, I'm not sure, but when you first got into business, obviously you only had like the insurance thing, and then the thing with I'm sorry, what was his name?
Kimbo.
With Kimbo. And then as you grew more businesses, I'm sure the pressure and the responsibilities also grew. Do you feel like your response to the pressure has changed over time?
I've learned to deal with it better, right? When we first started, it was all about me. I cared about me, right? Me and Kate, because we had nothing. I'd be fine now, right? If something happened, I mean, obviously you can make a catastrophic mistake and lose everything, but I own a cattle ranch, and one of those things that we talk about when you say bet the farm, right? I have a rule. I will never bet the farm, literally, right? I don't do debt. I despise debt. Young person, I didn't know any better, right? If I wanted a car, well, I didn't have 70, 80, 90, 100,000 cash, whatever it was, right? I had no money. So what we would do is get a car loan. And to pay this, you just make the payment. Well, I can make the payment. The payment's $500 a month. I can make the payment. Payments freak me out. I'm terrified of payments now. Any of them. It doesn't even matter what it is. I just don't like it. So that's hampered a few things, but the pressure has changed more so away from what is it about me to what is it about everybody else and all the people around you. There's an accountability thing. I mean, I'm a partnership guy, right? So the pressure to provide for, if we're in a partnership, the responsibilities of a partnership is I'm going to do as much for you as you're going to do for me, right? There are a lot of things that kill partnerships. Greed is one of those things, right? I have some amazing partners, and I've had super greedy partners, and it's become a problem. And that when you put your personal interests above the interests of the organizations, that's where the issues come out, right? So the pressure coming from employees isn't as much, because I know we're going to do the right thing by them, but the pressures for the partnerships and the other people involved, that has a lot. I mean, but if you pick the right people, you're pretty okay.
So I'm good.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask about the partnerships thing.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, so I think that idea scares a lot of people, right? Because they're like, well, what if my partner does something, right? Or what if they're behind my back or whatever? So
But I feel like you're putting a lot of faith into somebody that, I mean, you don't know as well as like a spouse or something.
Oh, 100%.
Like that seems like a big risk.
Yeah. So how do you choose partners?
Yeah.
And what do you do during the partnership to ensure that it's like a good relationship and a good business relationship?
They are not all perfect. I have had partners steal a lot of money. A lot. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. I have had partners put their own personal interests above the group and the organization, put us into very, very precarious, difficult positions. So they don't all work. Sometimes they're a disaster, a full-on disaster. You have to know it going into it. I am not a lone wolf guy. It's not me, right? Kimbo took a risk on me at 23 or 24 years old, whatever it was. I would never abandon that dude. I would never. I would give him it. He could do literally anything. I would hand him my personal checkbook. If he decided he needed to take whatever he wanted out of my account, I don't care. Because the only reason I have this is because that man took a shot on a kid, a stupid ass kid with no plan, with no experience, no stuff. He just handed a check and said, let's go do this. I call it the elevator, right? This man sent the elevator from the absolute top floor all the way down and let me get on it. And he never told me when to get off, if I should get off, how to get off, any of it. He just let me go. And he's still right there next to me. Even today, the guy he is so fabulously wealthy and still works just as hard as any man I've ever met. He works harder than I do. For what? As I said to him, I looked at him. It was just maybe a few months ago. I looked at him. I said, brother, why are you doing this? He says, because I love you, man. And I was like, wow. I mean, that's pretty good. We've done a lot of great things. His entire family works for us, right? I mean, office. I have all of them, right? And they all look to me to be, hey, how are you going to lead this? How are you going to do this? They're tremendous people, right? So partnerships are a real problem. They're terrible. Some of them are great. Some of them are awful. Some of them end in lawsuits. Some of them end in theft, right? I like good paperwork, right? So you know what an operating agreement is, right? You pre-negotiate your divorce. It's a prenup, right?
Yeah.
These are the rules of how we're going to interact. This is what you can do. This is what you can't do. This is what the voting interests are, and this is how it goes. Kimbo and I have been partners for coming on 20 years. We've never once voted on a thing. We've never one time voted on something. He has had every opportunity to take advantage of me. I mean, capital calls, loans to the company, things like that, doing new things. He's had so many opportunities to screw me, and he's never even thought about it, considered it, not one time, right? So we've never had a vote. I've been in other partnerships where we sit down at the table and everybody's got their hand up. Nope, that's bullshit. We're voting on that. We're voting on that. We're voting on that. So I like good paperwork, right? These are the rules of the partnership. This is how much money you can spend without talking to us. This is who can get debt, how they can get debt. This is who handles taxes, who doesn't handle taxes. This is how we unwind this thing. If it's going well, these are the rules. And all of that is established in the very beginning. And everybody signs it. And everybody goes forward off of that. That's the objective.
Yeah, we recently talked to, or recently interviewed on the podcast another entrepreneur who said the exact same thing, which is like to figure out, write a prenup with your partners like beforehand every time.
Yeah, I mean, we've got some wild stuff in there, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm in a partnership with you guys, okay, and you guys are married, right? I'm in a partnership with Tommy, right? And we have a thing going, and we're successful, and everything's working, and you guys split up, you get divorced, okay? Our partnership agreement identifies what happens when you do that, right? So you're immediately out if she sends me a letter, immediately. Executing the clause, right? You're gone. Oh, by the way, do you want to negotiate over what it's worth? No. We already established what it was worth, how it was calculated, how it's paid out, how it goes. She's your problem. She's not my problem, right? There's all sorts of things. What happens if somebody does something to embarrass the company, right? And what is the threshold for embarrassment, right? You're out. Right? If you steal, you're out. If you compromise, you're out. All these things. And the valuations, there's no arguing over what it is. The formula's set in stone. Everybody's initialed it. Everybody's initialed each line. They know, right? They know the rules. And we've executed the rules. Okay, you did this. This triggers this clause. Here's your signature. You're out.
I wanted to ask, like, to change gears a little bit. I hear often for people who want to get into business who are young, they say all the good ideas have been taken already.
It's a lie.
What do you say to that?
That's a lie. No way. That's a way. Now, how you get into it and what you would do, right? I'm not a debt guy, so I wouldn't go borrow a bunch of money right now. Probably going to cost me a significant amount of wealth because I'm afraid of going into debt, right? If I had going back in time during the COVID recession when money was free, literally free, I should have borrowed as much money as some stupid bank would have given me and taken it and done something with it. I didn't because I was afraid of it, right? All the good ideas are not taken. Can you do it better, faster, cheaper, higher service? Name it. Can you do that way, right? If you can answer yes to a few of those, then you're in business, right? There's always room, right? Amazon competes with Walmart, right? Who's the defined leader? I would say Amazon is, but Walmart's still killing it, right? They still work. They're not stopping because Amazon, they didn't just say it was the biggest, it's already taken, we're not going to do it.
Right.
So no, I would say that not all the good ideas are taken. Now, you have to get creative. You have to be willing to take a risk, but is it that bad? Is taking a risk that bad? How old are you guys? 20 something?
21, yeah.
Okay. You have an entire lifetime to screw up, okay? At 65, I would say this is a really bad idea, right? Unless you have no other choice. I know a lot of people who are resetting in their 60s and late 60s, right? They have no choice because they lost everything. They made a bad gamble and they lost it all, and now they got to start over. At 20, I wouldn't worry about it. Challenge it. Go out and do something. Pick an idea and go with it. If you can avoid doing it in debt, avoid going into debt. Service businesses are amazing, right? If I can provide a service without a product, without something crazy in it, that's a no-brainer because now you're selling yourself and your skill, right?
Right.
Product businesses are a pain in the ass. If you say you wanted to invent something, right? Like I'm not using this example, but your clothing business, right? I like the way you're doing your clothing business because you just POD, you print on demand, right? I worked with a client who sold women's athleisure to Costco. They had to spend $25 million before they made a dime. They had to print and ship and make massive investments in clothing, and they had huge warehouses full of this stuff, and it just flowed. That's terrifying.
Yeah, we actually tried to do that with Level. We tried to expand and make our own. It was like a specific like female product that we wanted to make, and the investment was just huge, and we'd have to not just in the product that we'd have to get, but now we'd have to find a place to keep it, and now we have to find somebody to help us box it and send it, and we let go of that really fast.
Yeah, that's if we sell whatever 70% of the inventory and whatever how many, and so it got to the point where like this is like a years down the road.
This is a mistake.
Yeah.
And we don't have that money now.
And we're like, no, we're not gonna do that. So we're keeping it simple on that. So speaking of service businesses, I remember you were telling me about how all of your businesses, some of your service businesses are vertically integrated, and this like blew my mind. Can you talk about this really quick?
Yeah. So there is, let's pick one. Let's use the restoration company, right? So I have a friend, met him at a daddy-daughter dance at the country club, right? And the guy puts his hand out and he asks me what I do. And my solid go-to answer is I'm a cattle farmer, right? I don't like telling people what I do or asking people what they do, because it gives somebody an immediate way to judge you, right? I hate that. I like it. I watch people how they treat folks. If you treat the CEO differently than you treat the janitor, I have a problem with that, right? It's just a person. You're the president of the United States. Yeah, you got some respect and all that stuff. That's cool. You're still a dude, right? You just have a different job than that guy has. I don't give a shit what your job is. What you do for money has nothing to do for me. I do not care, right? So I introduced myself to this guy. He said, what do you do? I said, I'm a cattle farmer. So what do you do? Right? He said, I'm a janitor. Great. He's not a janitor, right? He was never a janitor. I'm not a cattle farmer. I have them. I like to sit on the fence and look at them. That's not what I do. So we become friends and we start to get to know each other and do all this stuff. And then I start learning about his business. And I had, in process, helped him. He was looking at selling his company, and taking on a strategic partner. It's great. So we had done some branding and stuff for him. And for whatever reason, the two of them couldn't come to a agreement on what their partnership was going to look like. And again, I had been friends with this guy, so he approached me one day, and Ryan says, what do you think about doing it with me? I said, I think it's a great idea. I love it. I absolutely, right? What do you want to do? Because he had something already, right? He already had infrastructure. He had all these things in place. And he came to me and he said, well, I want to be partners with you. Let's do a 50-50 deal. I said, I don't want to be your 50-50 partner. You take 51, we'll take 49. Because I want you to retain your control and your comfort level and everything you need to be successful. We're just going to come in and augment it. We're just going to add fuel to the fire wherever you need it. If we see opportunities, we'll explore it, right? We'll pay off some debt. We'll put some money in. We'll do a few things to make it easy for you. And so we start this business. So I learned a lot about the restoration business, right? There's certain things when somebody's house floods, right? You're a hero when you walk in the door and you start cleaning it up, right? I love that. So you go in, you suck all the water out of somebody's basement, you tear out their flooring, right? And then you tear out these flood cuts, you do 16, 18 inches up off the floor, and you start cutting everything out and drying it out, setting equipment, and then the restoration company leaves, right? So I'm looking at the first job, and I'm like, why are you leaving? He said, well, we're done. Nope. There's a floor to be installed, there's a flood cut to be fixed, there's painting to be done, there's construction to be done, and while you're doing this construction, why don't you sell them that bathroom remodel? And he was like, oh. So, okay. So like 4 weeks later, started a construction company, right? Reconstruction. Go in, fix the problem, right? All right. And then the next thing happened. We had a fire. We had a big fire, and the roof came off. The roof needed to come off. So I'm standing in the yard, I'm looking at it. The construction guys are like, call the roofing contractor. And I was like, wait a minute. How hard could it be to put on a roof, right? So we started a roofing company, right? And then we were doing it. We were doing another job, and somebody said, get that flooring contractor here. And I said, wait a minute. Wait, how hard is it to install a floor? And so we started a flooring company, right? So it just starts, you find the opportunity. If we're paying somebody, if I go through and look at all of my accounts payable, right? And I see the same one, flooring company, roofing company. Okay, time to bring that in-house. Somebody else is making money on it. There's a margin there somewhere. Bring it in-house. Let's start it. Let's do it. Buy the insurance and go to work. That was the idea. And it's been that way with everything, right? In the advertising business, I was paying somebody to do social media. Like, why am I doing that? Bring that in-house.
So what's next for you? Like, I also want to ask you this, like, do these big projects still excite you when you have a new thing that you want to do? Is this like, oh, this is crazy? Or is it like, there's another job that I have to go to?
I literally had that conversation today. So I would much rather own 40% of something than 100% of nothing. Okay. So I still get excited about the projects and the ideas and the pieces, but my mentality has absolutely shifted, right? It has changed from grow, work to, is there a better way here? And I think that only happens with time. I've got small children, as you know, all three of them. They're very important. I want to get into jiu-jitsu too and why they're here at some point. So I want that question to come up. But the answer is, I think things are changing from the sense of it used to be more fun. The fun it's kind of dried up. Is as stupid as it sounds, and I understand how stupid it is like money is great. But it is. I'm not happier with money, right? I was actually happier broke, right? Lifestyle creep is a real thing. I mean, you'll experience this when you make more money, your lifestyle gets more expensive, right? When we joined the country club years ago, I thought it was the greatest thing in the world. I could not have been happier, prouder, all of the things. I could give two shits. It could go away right now. I do not care, right? At a time in my life, that was the greatest thing. Have you ever bought a brand new car?
Nope.
Okay. You're going to be tempted to do it someday, right? Because it's the exciting thing to do. I'm going to buy this car. I'm going to love it. Okay. You're going to love it for the first month. And then you're going to get in it one day and you're going to be like, why? This does nothing for me anymore, right? Nothing. So you just have to decide there's certain things that mean something and certain things that don't. To me, I really love growing people and helping people succeed. So that's more important to me now than it is to go make a bunch of money for myself, right? I know I can do that. But it's more fun to, I know now at 40 years old why Kimbo sent the elevator down for me. He sent the elevator down because he had everything else. There's nothing he couldn't buy. What he couldn't buy was me, right? He couldn't buy the idea that he could take a stupid ass kid under his wing and help me get to this level to where he is and enjoy the ride. Right. And then you start bringing it down. So the idea has to be transitioned away from start another business, do another thing to, hey, could we do this? So we started the flooring company. I approached Devin. I said, listen, why don't you do this? Take this, right? Take a piece of this and just go make it your own. Make it fun. Do whatever you want with it. Put your spin, your touch, however you want to do it. Make it yours. That to me is more fun than, oh man, we made $100,000 on it this month. That I don't care about that. You still got to make money, but I'd rather see somebody else get excited about it.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, let's talk about your kiddos and jiu-jitsu and why they're here. Because we had this conversation right before the podcast. I couldn't let it go too long because I had to make sure that we kept it here. But we were talking about a big philosophy that we have here is making sure that kids do hard things, right? And we were just talking before the podcast about when you have things and opportunities and you're not worried about like putting food on your plate and stuff, like how do you create that artificial difficulty for your kids?
Yeah, that is why we're here, right? This is this is the place in my kid's life where daddy can't help you, right? Mom and dad aren't bailing you. We can't bail you out. My daughter in that competition, my Corinne went 0-8 in that competition in Fort Collins, and she got destroyed. And it was the best thing that could have ever happened. She got destroyed. Oh, you're so sweet. I could be more direct. She got destroyed, and she should have gotten destroyed because she didn't put in the effort or the fire that she needed to get there, right? And until you get kicked in the face, you don't know what you don't know. My children have never been kicked in the face. They did not see us struggle. They have never seen a life that was before the businesses worked. They never saw mom work. They never saw her get up and go to work. Kate worked. Dr. Kate went to work and she supported us for a couple of years while we're in this transition with the business and all this stuff. You know, they never saw that. They never have seen an old broken down car in the driveway. They never haven't gone on 5, 6, 7 vacations a year, right? They missed the struggle. Right. And missing the struggle takes a lot out of it. And so Kate and I, we sit back and I'm in a really weird place as a parent, right? The reason we have all this stuff is because I didn't have it and wanted it, right? I don't care about this stuff anymore, but the idea of it was what drove me in the beginning, right? I wanted the sports cars, right? I wanted all of them. So I bought them. I had them. I did it. I had them. And it's fun for 3 months and then it goes away. You scratch the itch and it goes away. My kids see that stuff and I did it for me. I did it to scratch that childhood itch. I had the poster of that car on the wall. Now it sits in my garage, right? They don't understand that the reason it's here is because I couldn't do it then and I had to work my ass off for it now. It's hard. You can't explain it to kids. You can't explain those things. So they ask me for things. You know, they come to me. I was telling you guys this story. So all 3 kids, they sat me down. We have this family meeting where anybody can call a family meeting at any time. Sit down, we'll have a board meeting. We sit at the table. Everybody air their grievances. We have a conversation. We go through it, right? The kids approach me and they say, Dad, we need a trampoline.
Need one.
We need a trampoline. I looked at my wife and I was like, what do you think? I'm Dr. K. What do you think about this? She said, and she nodded her head. She said, okay. I said, great. You can have a trampoline. And they were like, awesome. We're going to pick it out, da-da-da. And wait a minute. How are you going to pay for this trampoline? Well, they were like dumbfounded. They were like, well, you're going to pay for it. No, we are not. We are not paying for your trampoline. But we will seed a business. We will seed an idea. You come up with a plan and tell us how you're going to make money to pay for it, and we will support you in that plan. So they went away, and like a day later, they came back, and they presented this idea. And Caden, my 11-year-old, comes back as the leader, and he says, we've decided that we're going to raise Thanksgiving turkeys and sell them. I said, this is a great idea. We on a farm. We on a ranch. Okay, let's go. So I flipped him a few bucks, and we bought him the turkeys and the stuff to do it. And he had a plan. And the deal was all 3 kids were really good for like the first 30 days. And then the youngest dropped off. This is a lot of work. I don't want to do this. So then it went for another maybe month or 2. And then Corinne, the middle daughter, she dropped off. And Caden every day got up and went out. And so the girls were, at one point, the girls had a conversation with them like, man, we're so excited about this. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. You quit, right? You quit on the business. You quit on the idea. You don't get to reap the rewards for his hard work when you quit. And so they were both like, oh, okay, well, good lesson, right? Then Caden, he gets up every morning. He goes down there. He checks the food. He checks the water. He cleans up. He gets eggs. He does this. He puts a note. Hey, Dad, I need you to stop, pick up feed from the feed store. You know, he did a good job, and he sold them. So he learned how to raise them. He had to learn how to stick with it. He had to learn how to sell them. And when he sold them, he went and pre-sold them. So he's sitting with me. He's like, well, how would you sell them? I said, you tell me, right? I could give you the answer, but that doesn't do you any good. So I was like, did you give them any hormones? He said, no, of course not. I said, did you give them any antibiotics? Nope. I said, okay, do they eat bugs? He said, oh yeah, absolutely. I said, are they locked up in a little tiny cage? He's like, no, they got this big, beautiful area to run around and everything. I said, okay, there's your unique selling proposition. Go do some research, find out how much a heritage turkey costs. I bought him the fancy ones when he bought it. I said, go find what's a bird going to cost? And he comes back and he's like, well, I think I could sell these for $200 a piece. All right, see what it is. So he sold them. And then it was great. He was all excited. And then the day that they were going to the butcher to get processed, 4 of them dropped out. And he turned and looked at me and he was like, what am I going to do? Right? I can't put these in the freezer. These are fresh, never frozen. Thanksgiving's in 3 days. This is a problem. And I was like, well, now you need to learn what the internet is. So I said, what you can do is you do a little sale video, sell them, and I'll use my platforms and I'll post it for you. So he did his little video and then he posted it and he had them all sold in an hour. Everything was sold. It was great. And he turned and looked at me. He was like, is that what the internet's for? I was like, that is what the internet's for. Go for it. So that was how he did it. So he made his money. Right? He could afford the trampoline. He's got it in his hand. And I said to him, all right, let's go buy your trampoline. And he said, well, wait a minute. I worked really hard for this money. He said, I don't know that I want that bad enough. And I was like, this is it. This is where this is my eureka. We're here. He did it. So he comes back and he's like, I don't want it. I said, okay, what do you want to do? He said, it took me 6 months to make this money and I'm going to just blow it on something that I don't even know that I really want. So, okay, what do you want to do? He says, how do I make more money with it? And I said, okay, well, what's your risk tolerance? You willing to burn it all right now, light it on fire? He said, no. I said, right, well, then you probably need to do some really good research on safe investing. He comes back to me and he's like, do you know what a CD is? I was, yeah. He says, I want a CD. He said, okay. So I called my buddy who owns a bank. I said, Brett, bring my son by. I need you to sell him a CD. He just started laughing. He's a grandpa investor. But his CD is going to mature here in like June, July, and he's going to make a nice little 6% return. He's going to be thrilled. He's not, but this taught him that it's not enough of a return. He wants more control over it, right? So now he wants to be a little bit more aggressive, and it's just molding the process.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
That's so cool. That like trial by fire thing is, I think, something that we've come to appreciate a lot. Obviously, like, we're still young and figuring things out, but everything that we've done at jiu-jitsu and at the academy has always been through that process of Tom being like, here you go. And then he leaves the room and
figure it out.
He would, when we first started coaching, he would, like in the middle of the room, we were like 13, 14 years old. We had like 25 kids around us. And he's like, oh, do word of the week. And then he'd like leave the room and just walk out. And we're sitting there. Nobody's here to watch the kids but us. And we're like, okay, and just figured it out. That's such a small level. We can't raise turkeys. I don't even know how to do that. But
that's so cool.
I think that's the way you learn really fast. And I don't know how Professor Tom like was okay with us messing up so much and like putting up with it. And I feel like that's what a good mentor is like, here's your mistake, like figure it out, and it doesn't really affect me because I'm here to help you learn. And I love that. So
this is such a, and I tell this to Tom every time I see him, because I don't know that I think he knows, but I don't know that he knows how much it means to me and my family and what it's meant to you guys, right? This is an unbelievable place, right? All this is a building, right? The culture is what comes from Tom and from you guys, and that permeates throughout the whole place, right? You're so fortunate. Tom is an elevator guy, okay? Yeah. Tom's sending the elevator down. Okay. And you're on it and you're riding it up. Okay. And you're riding it to wherever you want to go. That's the best part about this. You can take this as far as you want or get off whenever you want. That's your choice. But he did his part, right? Mm-hmm. He took the risk in 2017 to leave medicine and open this place and do it. And here you are in this with this incredible opportunity here in what you love, right? Now, if you didn't love this, that's a whole different game, right? You have to love what you do here too. Do I love what I do? Absolutely not, right? I love the deal. I love the deal a lot, but I don't love what I do, right? It's just what I do to make money. What I like is the people and the excitement of the deal and the ins and outs of the negotiations, all the pieces, right? This place has been great for my family. I mean, Monument Jiu-Jitsu has been incredible for my kids, right? It's been great for me. I am 40 years old. I have never gotten my ass kicked. Every time I walk into this place and step onto that blue mat, I get beat up, right? It's the most humbling thing ever. It's so humbling to get beat up. And it's not by one person, it's by every person, right? And they're so nice about it and so calm and so good. But, I sit at a desk all day long. Coming in here and getting beat up is really, really good for your brain. It's really good for your brain. It's difficult. Showing up is hard, right? But if you continue to show up, which I'm terrible at, right? Especially in here, it's fun. It's great. My kids, this is a non-negotiable, right? We are non-negotiable. Tuesday, Thursdays, you will be sitting here, right? Now there's crossovers with, other sports and all the other things and all the stuff. But my girls, what this has done for my kids and you as a mentor to my daughters, this is really important to us, right? I can't help them here. Daddy's money can't bail you out in here. My connections, my friends, my circle, my wife, nobody can help you when you step there. Only yourself. And it's hard. And I love watching them lose. I love watching them lose.
We can't say that as coaches, but we do too.
I love it. I love that she tried to fake a ankle injury to get out of her last 2 matches. I love that. Right? And the fact that the 3 of us called her out on it, right? I went first, more aggressive, because that's what I do, obviously, right? But the fact of the matter is yes, honey, I know you wanted to fake an injury to get out of it because you were embarrassed, okay? Why were you embarrassed? Were you embarrassed because you didn't know what you were doing, or were you embarrassed because you got your ass kicked? Well, is it both? Okay, here's how we fix that. You go back to work, right? If I'm in a conference room and somebody asks me a really good question, and I should know the answer and I don't know it because I didn't put in the legwork, am I embarrassed? Absolutely. And you got to put your hand up. You got to own it. So you know what? I didn't do homework. I didn't do the legwork. I don't know the answer to this, but I will not say that again next time, right? Go to work. Go back in here. Go to the lab. Go to work. Figure it out. If you need to learn an attack from guard, then ask somebody how to teach you an attack from guard. Research it. Learn it. Do something, right? But if you don't take that initiative, you are going to get that every time.
Yeah, so I feel like for so many of the kids in our comp team especially, it's really hard those first couple of competitions because there is no way to really prepare them besides for them just doing it. And you can tell them 1,000 times it's gonna be really hard and they're gonna come at you 1,000% and you gotta come 1,000% and we gotta be ready. We have a game plan, and without fail, every single time for their first competition, it's always a shock, right? Even if they have some success, it's still a harrowing experience, right? It's like brutal, And I think that for us is always important that like they come out of that one, they feel it, and then they're just like a different kid and a different competitor 6 months down the road, a year down the road. It's like, who is this kid? It's like a different person.
We always tell first time competitors too, like you can do a competition, and I think you're ready for it, but you have to continue doing competitions. Like that you can't do one, it doesn't go well and leave. Like you have to continue. You have to try another one. You have to try because it might be a horrible experience. Like we've had competitors where their first competition experience, they lose in 10 seconds and they have a whole meltdown and they don't want to compete again. We've had that. Yeah, of course. But the only way we know that you get past that is by doing it again. And that's what we always tell the kids and the parents for that. And I think jiu-jitsu is such a great, it's not, I don't even want to say it's an artificial way to like mimic like struggle, but like to mimic life struggle for sure.
Oh, it's the best.
Yeah.
It's the absolute best, right? I struggle with this all the time, right? Struggle for my children is different than it is for other kids, right? Now, I could screw up and we could be hungry in a week, right? That's the life we've built. I could screw it up. Now, we'd probably survive for a little bit and I'd get resourceful and figure it out. But sometimes I think that might be the best thing that ever happened to my kids, to see it be at the top and to fall all the way down, right? Instead, I would prefer that didn't happen to me, right? Because I've been broke and I'd much prefer not to be broke. I want my kids to get that somewhere, right? They're all very good at school, right? Okay, so school's not challenging. They get that from their mom. My wife is a genius. She's an absolute complete genius. So they've got that gift. It's easy for them. This is hard. This is where they need to put in the work. And this is where it trains you every time to get back up, to fight, to struggle, to have those things. And unless I'm creating it in a different way at home, right, this is the place where they're going to get it, right? They're going to get it here. They're going to get it in athletics. They're going to get it in track. You're going to get it in lacrosse. You're going to get it wherever you're going to get it. But this is one where you're entirely on your own. This is not a team sport. This is a you sport.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
100%.
That's right.
My girls, Camille likes to tell Corinne, that sounds like an issue, not an ish me, right? And it's pretty good line, but that's your problem. Go handle your own problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
I love that. And especially for girls, this is just so good for them. I'm going to switch gears again. If you were sitting where we are and you were our age again and you were broke and you had to do it all over again, like what would you choose to do with what you know now?
I was gonna ask the exact same thing.
I would try and follow the same path. Okay. I would find somebody in your life somewhere along the line, somehow that you trust, okay, that can give you guidance and advice and send that elevator down. Right. I'd like to think that I was good enough or motivated enough to be successful. I can't even begin to tell you about this man. This guy changed my life. Kim changed my life in a way that will not ever be, you can't replicate it. I wouldn't be able to. So if I'm saying what I would do something in a service business. I would find something where I'm selling myself and I would do it that way. If you need to, if your dream is to have a gym or to have whatever that requires a bunch of money and all that stuff, you have either a couple choices. You can raise money or you can borrow money, right? I'm afraid of both. I'm terrified of both, right? Because typically the people you go raise money from are your friends and family. So I'm going to mom and dad and saying, hey, would you hit me your 401k and loan me $100,000, right? And now they're putting a lot of faith in you. And sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say no. But I would do a service business. I would do something that I was passionate about or good at or whatever it was. I would live below my means, right? Which is a real challenge, especially now, right? Just because you can afford that Acura or whatever the car is, pick a car. I can afford this. I need to buy this. I should probably buy it used, right? Yeah, I could afford a Bentley, but I'm not going to buy the Bentley. That's a mistake, right? There's certain things that you just need to delay gratification on. And part of it is homes, right? Homes are very expensive. Debt, if you have debt, pay off the debt. Get out of credit card debt. Get out of student loan debt. Get out of anything you can that costs you money that doesn't contribute to your goal, right? And then sell yourself first. I don't care what it is. It doesn't have to be. It could be private lessons. It could be internet content of jiu-jitsu content, right? Something that you can do that you're great at that somebody will pay for, right? I will pay you any amount of money it takes to make sure that you guys stay here to maintain what you're doing here with my kids, right? Because that's how valuable it is to me, right? That is a service you can charge for, right? Find what you're good at and sell it.
That's awesome.
That's great.
That's fantastic advice, Colt. I don't want to take too much more of your time already.
Whatever you want to do. If you got any more, I'm happy to answer.
we really appreciate you, Colt. You're one of our elevator people too. All right.
Yes.
You've really given us a lot of.
We love picking your brain.
I love talking to you. It's so fun. I feel like one thing that she's helped me with is when we have an interesting person that has a lot of good advice is to just reach out and talk to them.
Ask.
Yes.
How did you do this? I love asking people how they did it.
Yeah.
I love it. It's my favorite thing. And some of these stories that people tell you are crazy.
Yours
is crazy.
Mine's not that.
It is.
Mine is. I did a good job by, I did a good job by latching onto somebody who I knew at the time was different, was special, right? Kimbo didn't have one of those. He did it all on his own. That's what's so amazing to me when I look at him and talk about him. But the skill set is so unique and so rounded. If you can find somebody who can give you advice or give you help or take that step with you, right? It's amazing. It's really a wonderful thing. That's how I view it. I'm not a lone wolf guy though, right? I don't need to be the top dog. I do not need to be the man. I do not need to be the guy at the head of the table. I don't want any part of that, right? I'll sit down off the side and be quiet, right? I don't want any part of being the only guy because I don't like it. To me, it's more fun to be a part of a team.
That's awesome. I love your mindset on that too.
Yeah.
Is there anything you wanted to shout out to the camera before we dip out?
I want you guys to know how important you are to the kids and the people here, right? And I know it's hard to get missed because in the end, it's a job, it's a thing, it's a passion, it's all the stuff, right? But there are things in life that are more valuable than money, okay? Time is far more valuable than money, right? You don't think about that at 20 years old. You do at 40, right? I would much rather buy myself a week off and I do things that buy me time way more than I do buy stuff that gives me intrinsic value, right? The time you guys put in here on your weekends and your stuff with the kids after work and all those things, that has tremendous value that you probably don't see right now, but it infiltrates, it goes, right? I'm going back. My guy who had a basketball coach in middle school, okay, took that all the way back. He told me that story 70 years later, right? What story are people going to be telling about you, right? Think about that. What are my kids going to say about you guys in 15, 20, 30 years, right? And they're going to say everything that I've told you. You're phenomenal role models. You do an unbelievable job encouraging and keeping these kids excited and happy and trained and safe and all the things. That is so valuable and so neat. You just have to keep going. It's going to suck. It's going to get tiring. You're going to hate it. You're going to have kids that are bad. You're going to have parents that are, it's going to be awful. Just don't forget, your impact is far greater than anything I could ever buy. I can't buy it.
You're the best. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
That's really kind.
You guys are great.
Thank you so much, Colt. All right. Well, we'll have to talk to you another time again. We got to have you on
We're
second.
Wrap it up.
definitely gonna have you on again.
All right,
Definitely
let's do it.
have you on.
Appreciate you guys so much. Thank
Thanks so
you.
much, Colt. Appreciate you.
All right.